He does.
The Full-Time Review Show is brought to you and supported by Saltire Energy, the global market leader in specialist drilling equipment rental, and also by Craig International, a truly global company with 10 offices strategically placed around the world. The future of global procurement is right here, and you'll be very safe in their hands. And I'm also sponsored by Steadfast Scotland, manufacturers of high-integrity stud bolts and special fasteners, globally recognised as your market leader and solution provider for bespoke quality bolting and safety-critical components. It was lucky number 13 as Aberdeen at long last find a winning formula after beating Elgin City by 3-0. We progress to the 5th round of the Scottish Cup, the draw for which takes place directly after tomorrow's Dundee derby. Shady Mo opening the scoring and Duke getting his first goals of the season. Hi everybody, a very warm welcome to Ali Beg ABTV this Sunday night. After, at long last, we get a win. We're up and running again, and let's hope this can kickstart what will hopefully be a very tidy run in the future. Lots to get through tonight, as always, on the review show. So Andrew Budge and I pre-recorded an item for you earlier today where we looked at the negative side of our play because I thought we started very nervously and continue to make the same mistakes, which on another day might have been punished. So we'll bring that to you a little bit later. But we've also concentrated on the positive aspect of our play as well yesterday. So lots to discuss. Couple of quotes from Yimi as normal, bring you the match stats, and got a little bit of history to look back on a little bit later. But there is only one place to start tonight, and that is obviously with the terribly sad news that our former manager Jimmy Calderwood passed away earlier today. Jimmy had been battling onset dementia for a number of years now. He was 69 years old, and he really was the nicest of guys. Rest in peace, Jimmy. Thoughts go out to Scott, his son, and his lovely family as well. Was very lucky to have got to know Jimmy over the years. He very kindly gave up his time for me when I was working out in Singapore, was producing a big news programme that night after Aberdeen beat Bayern Munich. After Aberdeen drew with Bayern Munich in the old UEFA Cup. He came on, gave me an interview because there's a big Bayern Munich following out in Southeast Asia. So he gave up his time for me to come on the show and do an interview about the game. He was absolutely fantastic. And when Aberdeen progressed through the group stages, when we beat Dnipro, when we beat Copenhagen, he also very kindly gave up his time to speak to me out in Southeast Asia. And he was just a lovely, lovely man, very funny, very witty, always invited me down to training whenever I was home. And I just really, really enjoyed his company, spoke to him quite often. And just terribly, terribly sad. And when the news reached us that he was battling this truly awful condition, which unfortunately my mother suffered from as well, it really is very debilitating and incredibly sad. But he will now be at peace. So come and tell us your memories of Jimmy Calderwood. He gave us some absolutely unforgettable nights at Pittodrie, some incredible games of football. He brought a little bit of joy back to us. He brought in some fantastic players, Barry Nick, Scott Severin, just to name two. Got us playing a brand of football, which was good. Just got us challenging again up the higher echelons of the league. Who'll ever forget that late Barry Nick winner against Hearts, Scotty Severin's goal to beat Rangers on the last day of the season for us to qualify for Europe. The games against Dnipro, Bayern, Copenhagen, who will ever forget them? Just a lovely man, and he's going to be very, very sadly missed. So if you get a chance, come on and tell us your thoughts and your memories of Jimmy. Let's get back to yesterday's game. The manager made 6 changes to the side that lost to Rangers, which I must admit I was slightly surprised about. Peter Ambrose, Slobodan Rubicic, Dante Polvara, Shaden Morris, Alexander Jensen, and Duke all started. Out went Graham Shinney, Topi Keskinen, Kevin Nisbet, Leighton Clarkson, James McGarry, and Jeppe Ockels. Over the piece, I thought we did absolutely fine after I thought what was a very nervous opening period in the game. But I think once we settled, once we found our rhythm, and once we got into it, I thought we did absolutely just fine. And for me, there was only ever going to be one winner in yesterday's game. Here's your match stats for you. So we enjoyed 55% of the possession, 18 shots, of which 10 were on target. We forced their goalkeeper to make 7 saves. Ross Duran was only forced to make 1 save in the game. We won 9 corners throughout to their 3. So what we'll do now is we'll get Andrew Budge on. Just let my camera sort itself out. There we go. We'll get Andrew Budge on now. So we'll do this analytical piece and then we'll get your thoughts after we speak to Andrew. So this is about nearly 6.5 minutes long, and I really hope you enjoyed what we put together for you earlier today. Andrew Budge. Hi mate, it's lovely to see you. Thank you so much for jumping on as always. And today is a monumental day. We get to
Thank
celebrate
God.
a win and talk about a win.
I know. I forgot what that feeling felt like.
Right, fella, we've got lots to discuss. Obviously, there were lots of positives to take from yesterday, which we'll get to in just a moment. But it's obvious that we need to take care of some rather scary moments at the beginning of the game, because I must admit, I thought we looked quite nervous in the opening minutes of the game. Until we settled, then I thought we were okay. But it wasn't the best of starts, was it?
No, it wasn't. And it's a continuation of what is a recent trend of us starting really slowly and just making some of the similar mistakes we've talked about previously. So Elgin were really positive from the start, which we'd expect, taking the game to us. But within the opening minutes, we're already conceding possession in our own half. Within 2 minutes in our own box with Shaden Morris not clearing his lines gives a really good opportunity to Elgin. Thankfully, we clear our lines, but yeah, if that goal went in, that could have really been panic stations with the run that we were on. Thankfully, we did clear it, but I mean, yeah, we need to make sure we're not dropping our performance levels. There was a lot of positives from the game, but yeah, we still need to make sure we're dealing with opportunities like this properly.
Yeah. Dante Palvara came in yesterday. Thought overall thought he did okay. But again, where we are so guilty, which has become a real trend in our game of late, is losing possession in dangerous areas, which is then setting our opponents up for a counter attack. And we keep seeing examples of this.
Yeah, as we mentioned before, Yemi is really big on transitions, and we're not defending transitions very well right now. As you said, we're gifting possession to opponents at the halfway line here. It just really hands the momentum back to Elgin. We were really struggling to get a foot in the ball. By losing it in areas like this, it just means they've got players committed forward and they can just run straight at our back line. In this example, you can see how positive Elgin were. You can see, I think, 5 players there all surrounded around the ball, really hunting sort of in numbers and pressing really well. It actually leads to a really good chance again within 5 minutes. So it's a good cross to the back post. The Elgin striker knocks the ball down, and thankfully Nilsson clears his line. But again, it's warning signs of these transitions that Yemi is so focused on, and we just don't seem to be defending them very well. I do agree with you. I thought Bovara did pretty well otherwise, but yeah, we need to be really careful when we're losing the ball in areas like this.
You see, because with the greatest respect, but against better sides than Elgin,
Yeah.
these are the type of examples where we could and probably will get punished.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, as you said, if we're playing a different team on Sunday, sorry, Saturday, Sunday my time, I think yeah, we would have easily been punished. So completely agree.
Yeah. Okay. From a fullback point of view, Nicky Devlin one side, Alexander Jensen the other side. But at one point during the game, they swapped positions, which I thought was really interesting. What was your take on that? Why do you think they did that?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. You often see wingers maybe swapping. we've not seen that at Aberdeen, but certainly other teams, they often have their wingers swap partway through the game, maybe to try and give fullbacks a sort of different challenge and keep them on their toes a bit. Maybe it's a similar sort of school of thought for this, but I thought it was really interesting that we did do that. These things are only possible when you've got really versatile players, which we're led to believe Jensen is. He's played a lot of positions in his time in his career so far. So he's played full back, both right back and left back. He's played further up the pitch as a wing back or even in the right midfield. So it's really interesting that we did this. It sort of led directly to a great chance for Devlin cutting the ball back to Morris, which was well cleared. But it's something we should definitely keep an eye on because if we've got really versatile players, it's definitely worth trying.
Because a little bit later in the game, they sort of reverted back to their normal positions. I have to say, over the piece, I thought Alexander Jensen looked great on the ball, looked very comfortable. Loved the fact that he was always willing to get forward and to support the forward players as well. I think we've got a really decent signing on our hands here.
Yeah, absolutely. I was really impressed when he came on, just in sort of fleeting moments against Rangers, and I thought it was a really positive performance yesterday. Interesting, pretty much, I think he got the full 90, so a lot of minutes under his belt. As you said, in the second half, he returned to sort of left back and looked really threatening. I thought he dovetailed with Duke really well. They seemed to have quite a good relationship just off the bat. When one would maybe drift wide, one would be more central, so they're never in the same sort of line of passing, so they're always creating angles for each other. In the example you can see here, Duke does a really nice flick round the corner, and you can see how far up the pitch Jensen is. He was frequently in these sort of advanced positions in the second half and had a number of decent crosses into the box and cutbacks that we just didn't make the most of. But on another day, I think he could have had a few assists to his name. So yeah, a really positive performance. So yeah, a lot to look forward to with him in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So next up, it's St Mirren. Always a tricky game against St Mirren. But from here on in, I just hope the lads build on their confidence. I thought overall it was a decent performance. It was great to see Pape back. It was great to see Duke getting amongst the goals. It's just a case of taking it forward now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great to see Duke scoring because I think he had scored the season before that. So yeah, great to see him on the score sheet. Great to see Pape back. He was, as I don't know, doing similar Pape things as usual. He looks brilliant one moment and then with a really heavy touch the next. But I'm really excited to see him back after his early form this season. So yeah, positive signs going forward.
Brilliant. All right, Andrew, thank you so much for jumping on as always. And we'll see you again in a couple of weeks, yeah? Because you'll be taking a break after next week.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks, Ali.
Brilliant. All right, mate. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ta-da, ta-da. Thank you as always, Andrew. This is what the manager had to say after the game. We had to be 100% fully concentrated and give everything we have. It was a tough game, but I'm happy with the chances we created and how we created the chances. And also, of course, that we are through to the next round and how we could finally celebrate with our supporters again. It was a nice feeling. It was a while ago when we won a game, but for me, even in tough times, you have to be stable and keep the direction. Even though we won today, we know we have a lot of things still to keep working on and to focus on. The manager. Right, let's get you guys on and see how we're all doing this evening. Oh, lots of you on tonight. Fantastic. Okay, Gordon Keith. Richie came on first. He said, good evening all. Played a bit better, did a professional job. Not convinced the second goal was in, but the run we're on, I will take the luck. Now we've got to build on yesterday. Hugh Byrne says, good evening all. Job done yesterday. Surprising that Yeti went with Ruby rather than Dorrington, but it all worked out just fine. Hugh also went on to say, rest in peace to Jimmy Calderwood and to Dennis Law. Paul Donaldson says, sad times at the moment with losing Dennis Law and Jimmy Calderwood in the past couple of days. Hopefully we'll get a chance to pay tribute to both of them at Pittodrie next weekend. Hugh came back to say it could have easily have been 7 or 8, so nobody should concern themselves if the second goal was in or not. Colin Gale says, firstly, how the referee could make a decision on our second goal beats me, but a rub of the green is always welcome. I only viewed the highlights, so difficult to give a definitive view on the game. Gray Pilgrim says, a win is a win. Duke with a goal or two. Nice. Let's get another win next week. Paul came back to say a few ups and downs during Jimmy Calderwood's time as manager, but it was never dull. We'll always be grateful to him for managing us through that fantastic run in Europe back in 2007, 2008. Paul Hannon is on. Hi, Paul. Finally a win, but I have to say first touches were scary and passes against a Premiership or Championship time, we might be out of the cup. Barry came on. Hi, Barry. How you doing? He says, what a day out yesterday. Never saw much of the game due to standing on the corner. Glad to be back to winning ways, and hopefully the team can move on. A fair day out was had. Glad you had a great time. Paul Hannon came back to say, also sad news about Jimmy Calderwood. Condolences to his family and friends. GG says, Jimmy was such a lovely man, great sense of humour, and he did very well in his time here. Will be missed, big man. Barry Cool also says, rest in peace, Dennis Law and Jimmy Calderwood. Colin Gale came back to say it was... Oh, sorry. Sorry, the message just jumping the gun there a wee bit. Colin Gale said it was sad to read the death of Jimmy Calderwood. I have seen some bad times in my time supporting the Dons, but his period was one of the better ones. Greg Pilgrim says, I'd be interested to see how many former players and assistants of Jimmy Calderwood are carving out a coaching career because of him. I bet there's a lot. Good guy, Jimmy. Rest in peace. Paul Hannon says, I missed the game on Saturday as my poor wife had not been well, but she was happy to see the Dons win. I hope she's feeling better, Paul. Pass on our best wishes, mate. Musical Box said, sad to see the news regarding Dennis Law and Jimmy Calderwood. Thoughts are with their friends and their families. Paul Donaldson says, Elgin deserve a lot of credit for how they played yesterday. They made it really difficult for us. Musical Box said Elgin were good, but thankfully ran out of energy. He also said it was good to see Pappy back on the pitch. Suze on, wishing everybody a good evening. Hope everyone is well, she's asking. Musical Box says, when you consider how many goals we don't get to the odd one in the plus column isn't a bad thing. Be better if there was no errors though. Rodney J. Lenny says, this is the start of winning again. Come on, you Reds. Kaiser's on. How are we doing, Kaiser? He's wishing everybody a good evening. A sad day today with the passing of Jimmy Calderwood. He brought good times back to Pittodrie after many years of mediocrity. Rest in peace, Jimmy Calderwood. Neil's on, wishing everybody a good evening. He's also saying, thanks, Elgin, for putting us up yesterday. Feeling a bit rough. Sequentia says, the drought is done. The sparks aglow. The cup run starts with a 3-0 show. From weeks of pain to this delight, at last, the Dons get something right. Loving your style, mate. Loving your style. Hope I'm doing it justice. Hugh Byrne says it's imperative that we build on this and scud the buddies next weekend. Absolutely, Hugh. On to the next one, mate. Neom says, rest in peace, Jimmy. Hugh Byrne says, I compare Calderwood to the Ali MacLeod era. Not a particularly great coach tactically, but great motivator and raised Aberdeen in dark times. David Goldrally-Vid said, evening dandies, rest in peace Jimmy C. What a character he was. Never a dull moment. Thanks for the memories, Mr. Calderwood. Kaiser says the Copenhagen 4-0 and the 2-2 at home with Bayern Munich under Calderwood will live long on in the memory. Chris Hutty said it's great to have Pappy back, even if he doesn't know what he's doing. Matthew Cool is on, wishing everybody a good evening. As is Chilling. Chris Hutty says, rest in peace, Jimmy. Luminous Reality says, good evening, everyone, and Fit Like Ali, finally a win. Kirstein's on. Hi, Kirstein. Good evening, Ali and fellow dandies. Sad news about Dennis Law and Jimmy Calderwood. Back to winning ways yesterday, so hopefully we can get some confidence from that and get back to winning ways. Erica Mitchell says, evening everybody. Thank God we got through to the next round of the Scottish Cup. Rest in peace to Jimmy. Such sad news. Matthew Cool also saying how sad it is that we lost Jimmy. Sheep on Fire says, JT learned more about his Aberdeen squad in the last 14 than he did in the first 13. Until people learn to be patient, teams like us will never progress. Ah, Barry Cool, interesting. I didn't know that. Dennis Bergkamp was named after Dennis Law. There you go. Alfie Dello says, good evening, dandies. The win yesterday tempered by the sad news today about Jimmy C. Roy Thompson says, thought Devlin was great against Elgin. Not sure if it was the level of opposition or he's over a niggling injury, but he looked really athletic, making overlap runs. He looked like a different player. Jude says, my main memory of the Calderwood era is the run in Euros in 07-08. Special nights. David Horn says, rest in peace, Jimmy. Rodney J. Lenny saying, God bless Dennis, Aberdeen Loon. My dad used to work with his brother Joe for many years. My dad ran a train in the early to mid 80s called the Northern Bell, which was a tourist train which ran from Aberdeen to Keith every Wednesday and every Sunday. And he did a deal to open the old branch line with the old Scottish Rail. And the branch line that went all the way to Dufftown, where it actually ended. And Dad reopened that track. So the train diverted from Keith and went all the way to Dufftown, where we parked up. And the tourists got off, had a tour around the Glenfiddich distillery. They had morning coffee. They had lunch just outside a lake. Did the trip round Glenfiddich and then had afternoon tea on the way back. Dad did it for many, many years. And Joe was Dad's head steward on the train. Joe worked for British Rail or ScotRail, whatever you want to call them back then, for many, many years. And he was our head steward and an absolutely lovely man as well, Joe was. Oh, he's a super guy, Joe. Really, really took care of us all. Mark Smith says, just wanted to thank Jimmy Calderwood for all the memories, highs of Copenhagen at Pittodrie, lows, Queen of the South, Scottish Cup semi, a white knuckle ride, but what a ride you delivered. Angie Jameson says, a professional job done yesterday once we settled into the game, still giving away silly balls. I'm at my wit's end with Nielsen though. Surely we should have rested him yesterday. Chris Sutty says, we'll never forget the Copenhagen game. Al Hay says, hi Dandies, glad to get a win. At last made it hard for ourselves early doors by giving the ball away and missing a couple of chances, but got the job done. Was surprised to see Dorrington didn't get a run. Hugh Burns says, Jimmy and Dennis are now in a far better place. God bless them both. Barry Cole says, the Copenhagen game set us up all for a fantastic Christmas. West Coast is on saying, stand free folks. Kaiser says, remember we were losing at Tynecastle, so in the second half Calderwood went 2-4-4 and we won 2-1. All out attack, great stuff. Graham Fide says, Jimmy C brought in some excellent players to the club. Kirsten came back to say, Jimmy definitely brought football that was great to watch the majority of the time, but he did have some howlers. But all in all, the football was great to watch. Some great signings too under Jimmy. Roseanne Hannon says, my heart goes out to the Calderwood family. He was one of my favourite Aberdeen managers. He was a gentleman. Rest in peace, Jimmy. You may find some peace in your slumber. Hugh Burns says, my favourite Jimmy game, Tannadice, January 2006, cup tie, 2-0 down, 1-3-2. Neil McDonald said, love Jimmy C, his ability to set so many adventurous formations at any time that caught many teams out. Graham Gibbs says, I've heard some great JC stories over the years, could laugh at himself. That's the worst part about dementia. We miss out on telling all these great stories. David Horn says he met Jimmy in the Bronze Bar in Magaluf. What a great guy, he says. John Grant says, hi Dandies, a win at last, not without a few early scares. Elgin pitch didn't really suit our team to pass or run with the ball. Tiredness and being part-time really told on Elgin. Jensen looks class. Hugh Burns is also a big fan of Jensen. Musical Box says, we keep the ball at the back for too long, passing it around. There's no urgency of movement before finally passing it forward to an often static player. It's often passed straight back. Kaiser says, yesterday was all about getting through, nothing really to celebrate. The real test is coming now. St Mirren, then away to Hibs and Dundee. Not confident, he said. Graham Gibbs says, Jensen, is he another one who has played all season and will tire out as our season unfolds? Let's see. He's not played for a while, to be fair, though. Rodney J. Lenny says that we need to be better in the next game. Stephen Water says, good evening all. Feel like Ambrose is getting a really hard time. Yeah, he's not been great, but at least he tries and also gives the team another out ball. Kaiser says, Dennis Law said we should have beaten Real Madrid 6-2. Neil Strachan says, good evening, Ali. Oh, very, very sad news about both Dennis Law and Jimmy Calderwood. Rest in peace to both. Both fantastic win yesterday, and hopefully it's a catalyst for the rest of the season. Mon the Dandies. Rodney, thank you for posting, mate, and I'm so sorry. I know exactly what you went through, mate. Absolutely awful, awful disease. Robert Fowler says, yes, Pappy can take a heavy touch, but just as the defender thinks he will never catch it, he stretches his long legs and does indeed catch the ball with some ease and create danger. John Kylo says, Pappy moves like a real athlete. 37 Chewy says, rest in peace, Jimmy. Such a great character and a perfect fit at the time. We needed his boost. He's going to be missed. Right. Let's go down on a little memory trip. You know, we've been doing it with Jimmy. A couple of others for you. If we look back on today in the club's history. So who will ever forget 19th of January 1985, Aberdeen striker Frank McDougall scores a hat-trick as Aberdeen go 8 points clear at the top of the league after thumping Rangers 5-1. Remember watching that game from the main stand. Absolutely Baltic that day, but Frank was on fire. What a game that was. And also on this day, in 1989, Dutchman Willem van der Ark signs on for the Dons from Dutch side Willem II. Willem, who was he's 6'5", signed on for 2 years. Willem van der Ark, also a truly lovely bloke. Became a bit of a cult hero, didn't he? Don't forget, if you've enjoyed the show tonight, press the old like button. Thanks for all your comments that have come in so far. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I'd be absolutely thrilled if you would please consider it. We're growing and growing week by week. And I would be delighted to get you on board so that you can see what we're doing going forward. Right, we'll just finish off with a couple of more comments as we're just coming up to half an hour. Just see how you're all doing. Mad Ferret says, I was at that Rangers game. Hugh Burns, wow, 40 years ago. Scudded Rangers 5-1. Adam Binney says, hopefully we can go on from here with our new signings. We'll continue to improve. And also with Papa Gay back and Duke and Shaden scoring. Chewy, I've got no idea, but probably the answer to your question. Roy Thompson says, Jensen and Tobers look like great signings. Where was that comment? There it is. Colin Gale says, Dennis Law was in the ITV studio with Dickie Davis the night we won against Real Madrid. Graham Rate says, my old man also worked with Joe on the Northern Bell. Is that right? Who was your dad? No way. Tell us who your dad was, Graham. Drop us a wee note, mate, will you? Drop us a wee DM. That'd be great to know. I remember all the guys that were on the train. It was a brilliant, brilliant time. I particularly remember all the waitresses that worked on the train as well. Bit of a teenage crush going on with one of them, whose name was Laura from, oh God, what's that village called just up near Peterhead? I can never remember it. Begins with a B. Up, just past Peterhead, up towards Beth. Oh God. You know the one I mean, right? She was from there. First crush. There we go. Right, guys, I'm going to call it a night. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed the show. So we're not going to be back for a wee while now. We won't be back until Friday night as we look ahead to the St Mirren game. And we're going to do a watch-along show for the St Mirren game. Because I've got a free weekend, so I thought, why not? Let's jump on. It's not getting broadcast live anywhere in the UK, so we'll do a watch-along show for the St Mirren game next weekend. So do have a fantastic week. Take really good care of yourselves, and I'll see you very soon. Doesn't it feel good at long last to get a win? There you go. See you soon. Stand free.